This is In Studio. I'm Jay Daniels. This week I have the pleasure of sharing a recent interview that I did with vocalist Catherine Russell. Earlier this year, she released the album Alone Together from Dot Time Records. For many, Catherine Russell is no stranger to the music industry. While working currently as a soloist, she is also well known for her work with artists like Steely Dan, Cyndi Lauper, and David Bowie. But music was something that really did run in the family for Catherine. Let's begin the conversation by learning a little bit about Catherine's parents, Louis Russell and Carleen Rae.
My dad, Louis Russell, came over to New Orleans from Panama in the year 1921. His mother had been to the United States before, and then brought he and his sister over in 1921, and then my dad immediately started to study arranging. He had played for the silent films in Cologne in Panama before that. And so he came over and immediately started studying arranging, forming his own bands, which he worked with throughout his career. And eventually, it was a small community, so he eventually worked with Louis Armstrong in the 1920s. And they recorded together 1929 and 30. Then his orchestra was the orchestra that Louis Armstrong fronted from 1935 to 1943. And then my dad had resumed his own orchestra after that for a few more years before he retired from the music business. And he also played on many sessions, played piano for different blues singers, back in the early 20s. And with Hoagy Carmichael. And my mother, Carleen Rae, born in 1925 during the Harlem Renaissance. She was as involved in classical music as she was in jazz, so went to the Juilliard School of Music, and later on majored in voice at the Manhattan School of Music. But after Juilliard, she was asked to join the all-female swing orchestra, the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, in the mid to late 40s. And then after that, she did a variety of work, a variety of recording sessions as a bass player and a vocalist for different major artists. Worked with a lot of people, briefly Max Roach. She worked with the Duke Ellington Orchestra under the direction of Mercer Ellington. She worked with Skitch Henderson. She worked with a number of people, and also including Wynton Marsalis and Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. In a tribute to Mary Lou Williams, she worked with Mary Lou Williams for a number of years, pianist, composer Mary Lou Williams, and arranger Mary Lou Williams, and taught at many schools. So also taught at Jazzmobile. And so she had basically a 60-year career, 60-plus year career.
Mm-hmm. You came along in the mid-50s, is that right?
Yes, 1956.
And just from what I was reading, your dad passed away when you were still fairly young, is that right?
In 1963, yes.
So you would have been about, 6 or 7 years old?
I would have been 7 years old, yes.
So did you know him all that? Some children have better memories at an early age than others. Were you close with him at that young age?
Yes, very close with him. And, he was ill, unfortunately, so died not at 61, not too old. And, but he was into home movies, a lot of home movies, and he took footage at Louis Armstrong's house, so we have that. I went over there when I was 4, maybe, in about 1960 or so. And then he was always splicing his film, so I used to like to watch him splice his film on his Bell and Howell splicing machine back then. And he practiced piano a lot. And so, and he was a good, nice human being. Strict, but nice.
Well, strict is not exactly a bad thing either.
No, it's a good thing.
I learned the meaning of the word no at a very early age.
Yes, me too.
So your mom and dad were both very steeped in music.
Absolutely.
And your mother lived on for many more years after. Yes. Did you ever think that you would do anything else in life but music? I mean, sometimes in musical families, I suppose that the children are often free to do what they want, but obviously they're going to receive some sort of musical knowledge along the way.
Well, many children, I mean, in those days, music education was part of school. So there was no question that I would be in school band and school orchestra and choirs and different things like that. I don't know if it's the same today. And my mother also started me in dance, so I was a dancer before music, but I had not planned on music as a profession at all.
What were you thinking of as far as the career path you wanted?
I don't know, but I wasn't thinking of I hadn't planned on music as a job.
And I don't think it's fair to say that you are strictly a jazz vocalist or jazz instrumentalist. While jazz is what you're specializing in now, that is definitely not the only genre of music that you've dealt with.
Well, you know, in my journey in making money in the business, you know, paying my bills, jazz was the last thing that was, you know, presented itself. Yeah. So everything else, from blues to soul to rock, were more, you know, the opportunities came to make money in those areas sooner than jazz, you know. So I don't consider myself a jazz vocalist. I'm a vocalist that likes, you know, a certain type of material.
Sure.
You know, but you got to put something in a category, you know, in the world, so it's in the jazz category.
I guess it helps with the marketing and the PR.
Yeah.
So along the way, you're part of a musical family. And during your career, you've worked with the likes of David Bowie, among others. What were the events that more or less led you to finally go in a direction of being a professional musician?
You know, I had worked in different day jobs, you know, basically computer, you know, information processing type of work, and in personnel work, and I liked that kind of work because it was varied and you could learn things. So I did that for a little while, and I'm good on the phones, so I did that for a little while. But then music just kind of kept creeping back in, and you know, it was not an easy road, but I was learning, you know. So I figured, all right, music has some kind of forward motion to it. I can get somewhere. If I'm in an office job, I don't know where that's gonna get me, really, you know. And I wanted to travel, so music afforded me the opportunity to do that, and still does a lot. And you know, so then I just started to come up, kind of getting to know musicians in New York and having different jobs, and I did some, you know, some private work for a while. Just, you know, I did songwriters demo work for a while for various songwriters that wanted to plug their songs to famous artists. So those of us that did, you know, demo work, so rent wasn't that much in those days, so it all, you know, paid the bills. And then I worked at Catch a Rising Star Comedy Club for 4 years in between comics, many of whom are very famous today. And so, you know, all of these things lead to other things, and the community in New York is very strong.
Yes.
So people help each other, you know. So if they see you're, you know, good enough for them to recommend for something else, then that's what happens. So one thing just kind of led to another thing. And
you not only have worked in dance, as you mentioned, you're not only a vocalist, but from what I gather, you're also a multi-instrumentalist. Is that right? Well,
I like to say I'm a utility instrumentalist. I don't play jazz, but I played keyboards and mandolin with Cyndi Lauper. I was in her band for 4 years. And played percussion in Jackson Brown's band. I was in his band for 5 years. And then played all the instruments that I can play in David Bowie's band. So I was with him for 2 years. So keyboards, you know, I like keyboard parts, and I could figure out parts, and percussion and mandolin and guitars in his band. So before me, he was looking for someone who could play simple parts on different instruments and sing. And so Gail Ann Dorsey, who was his bass player and vocalist for 20 years, and I had done another gig together with the great Canadian singer-songwriter Jane Siberry. So we knew each other before that, in the mid-90s. And so when the opportunity came up she recommended me for the position with David Bowie's band, and I got it.
Before embarking upon what would soon become the solo portion of your career, we often think of these musical careers as a journey where we're always trying to learn or grasp at something. What was one of the greatest things that you were able to learn through working with these varied artists, meeting their needs and being able to grow as a musician?
You know, and I did not include Steely Dan, whom I've been working with off and on for 25 years. They are, all of these artists, Cyndi Lauper, David Bowie, Jackson Browne, Rosanne Cash. Been working with Rosanne for a number of years. Donald Fagen, Walter Becker. All of these folks are lifers. They're not doing anything else with their lives. They're writing songs. They are, you know, dedicated to excellence in their respective fields, you know. And so this is what I learned, you know, from watching these people every night on stage. They're going out there with giving 100%, 200% to their audiences. So when you get to support these people, you realize what propelled them to stardom. They were passionate, they were driven, and they didn't do anything else. This is what they did with their lives. They didn't, you know, it wasn't kind of, well, maybe I'll sing or maybe I'll do this. No, this is what they did. And so, you know, that's what I learned, is that, you know, it's not really a choice. If music gets you, you know, then that's what you do. You know, some people want to do it, and some people have to do it. So all of those people that I mentioned that I work for and still work with from time to time need to you know, music is their health, their energy, their life's blood. So. And
would you say that music got you as well?
Yes, I mean, through music, you know, I'm always learning. I get to work with excellent musicians, so I learn from them. And it's good for my health. I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my voice. You know, I have to be focused, disciplined, all of those things. So those are that is what a career, you know, when you have to be responsible, that's what you have to do. So not only the music itself, but everything that surrounds it.
And here we all thought that music was just a side hobby, you know. But I will tell you, one of the first recordings I heard of yours was from your 2014 release, and it featured a track by Duke Ellington, I Let a Song Go Out of My Heart, yes. Which as soon as I heard it, you know, you have the big band arrangement in the back. Yeah. It has this nice, easy swing sort of groove. And then to hear you sing these songs, they come very naturally to you. And I think you may have a specific reason for why you sing this particular songs that you do. And most of your recordings have been true to what they call standards. Why standards in particular? There are so many songs within jazz to pick, but why is it that you have picked these treasures from so many years ago to bring back once again?
The songwriting for me from the teens through the 50s, and particularly the teens through the 40s, is some of the best songwriting for me. They tell the best stories. The craft of the songwriting is interesting. The melodies are interesting. They're interesting harmonically. And the themes are universal. So this is why I think they've lasted for so many years. And all of our classic American treasures have sung them, from Ella Fitzgerald and Nat King Cole, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Rosemary Clooney, Peggy Lee, and on and on. So from those recordings, you know, I can learn the melodies. All of those artists can tell a great story. I just heard Tony Bennett sing the night before last. I Left My Heart in San Francisco. The man is 92 or something like that. Still fantastic. Yeah. You know, Marilyn May. These are the masters. Billie Holiday. These are the masters. Dinah Washington. Where you get the stories. So from all of those incredible recordings, and then from all of the fantastic songwriters, Harold Arlen, from Harold Arlen, Ted Koehler, Duke Ellington, Fats Waller, Andy Razzoff, I mean, you name them. Johnny Mercer. You just can go down the list, and Julie Stein, Sammy Kahn, just go down the list, and they're all crafted with clear stories, great rhyme structure, and they're moving forward. They have forward motion to them, because they're from movies or shows or something like that. So there are scenes that go along with these songs. There are scenes, so you can see the pictures. When I sing them, I can see the pictures. That's what I pick songs where I can visualize the scenes that are happening around them. So I let a song go out of my heart. The first person I heard sing that was Joe Williams.
Yes.
And so, and Joe Williams could tell a story. So that really got me into that tune. That's what got me into that tune. Just like Angel Eyes, it was the Nat King Cole version of that tune that drew me to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the stories that I hear coming from these artists really that draw me in.
You're listening to In Studio with our guest Catherine Russell, and not too long ago, in fact, just in the past couple of months, you released the album Alone Together from Dot Time Records, and it includes many of these stories that you talk about. Alone Together, of course, being a standard from many moons ago,
yes,
along with such great standards as Irving Berlin's How Deep is the Ocean?
Yes.
Let me see, When Did You Leave Heaven? Which,
Yeah.
that goes back all the way to the 30s. I remember a Guy Lombardo version of that song. But you actually pulled, was it from Dinah Washington or someone that you pulled their particular recording, I think, from the late 50s, early 60s as
When Did You Leave Heaven?
Yeah.
That was from Nancy Wilson.
Nancy Wilson.
And Little Jimmy Scott. So they really made those kind of rhythm and blues hits a lot later. And so I learned that When Did You Leave Heaven, as well as You Turn the Tables on Me, are from a movie starring Alice Faye called Sing Baby Sing. So we did another radio show last month out on the West Coast, and the host of that told us about this. So those songs were from a movie that wasn't, very successful apparently, but great songs came out of it. So.
And I realize this probably was not the intent of this album, but especially when I listen to, say, You Turn the Tables on Me, there's a guitar within a lot of these tracks. And we didn't do this growing up. I grew up in the countryside of Virginia, but I can always envision some families on the front porch, and they gather around, bring their instruments together, and they just sing music. And you come from New York City, so different sort of environment, different sort of culture. But it seems to me that when you got together with the players for this album, Alone Together, it seems as though that you all were getting together just to enjoy music, to be able to enjoy that together. And through that recording, we're able to enjoy it with you. Tell me a little bit about the background, the inspiration, what brought these particular tracks together for you on this album?
As soon as I finish one album, I start to look for tunes for the next one. So in looking for tunes, the theme comes later. I look for tunes that I like, good. First, the story, the lyric comes first, then the melodies, the harmonic structure, and can we swing it? Is it going to be great for people to dance to if they want to? And is it from that period of time of such great songwriting to me? The kind of pre-rock and roll eras, I'll say. And I work with the greatest musicians, who are also knowledgeable about different styles of music. And so everybody infuses their own, that brings depth into the interpretations, of the tunes. Not only are the musicians that I work with well-versed and so knowledgeable about classic material, but they also know modern material. They like everything. So they can play the blues, they can play, they can play calypso, they can play whatever I bring to them. And so what we do is I'll find a tune, and then if I like it, I'll write out the music, write the chord chart out, bring it to my band, who've a lot of them I've been working with now for 10 or 12, 13 years. So bring it to my band, we try it, see if it works. If it works, we put it into the shows. If that works, then those are candidates for them to go on the recording. So once I have 12, 13, then we have enough for the next recording. But up until that point, we have played them for audiences and seen what the reactions are. And people that come to see me more than once will tell me, people that have come to see me over the years will tell me, oh, I really like that one. Or, that one, it's good, but it doesn't move me as much as this one. So I get a lot of feedback also from my audience, from repeat people that come back to different shows and tell me. So that all helps me decide what to pick.
And that's a wonderful segue into my next question. I was at one of your recent shows at Birdland. And every year you go there around Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And this has happened to coincide with the release of Alone Together. And I was at an 11 o'clock show, which for me, that's almost bedtime for me.
Well,
so.
It's probably 11:15 by the time we got on.
I would say so. But I watched the audience. I mean, I obviously watched what was happening on the stage too. But I watched the audience and people were glued to what was going on. I mean, you would take us from a high on, say, you can't pull the wool over my eyes. And then in the next breath, let's bring it down a notch with When Did You Leave Heaven? Now, I could see the audience from my perspective, how they responded. But when you are presenting these songs to an audience, what are the things that you see and hear from them? How do you feel that this music affects them as listeners?
Hopefully, they feel better when they leave than when they came in. That's if you're at the same point at the end of a show as you were when you walked in the door, then I haven't done my job. So what I want to do is share these stories with the people, share the musicians, these great musicians that I work with, share the arrangements that my fabulous arrangers help me, with. And we wanna just give you an experience that makes you feel better.
Yes.
That's fun and makes you feel better and more relaxed, and just it should feel like your evening was well spent. That's how I want you to feel. I want you to feel like you didn't make a mistake by all the things you have to all the decisions that you have to make to plan something. You got to eat. You have to plan. You got to park if you're coming in, or you got to plan your train trip home. If you got kids that need, babysitters, not anymore because all of the kids are grown now and gone basically. But if you have obligations that you need to attend to, family obligations and so forth, all of those decisions come into whether you're going to go out. And so I feel very honored that people choose us. So I don't take that for granted because I have played in empty places, So I'm very appreciative that people choose us, for an evening. So,
and I think playing to those empty spots, that's what Ella Fitzgerald might have called paying your dues.
That's right, and you have to. That's part of it, It's part of it. So I'm very happy that we've been doing Birdland now. It's gonna be our 5th year, Valentine's week next year.
Yeah.
And all of the fabulous people like Wynton Marsalis that I get to work with. And so, I'm very grateful, that I got to know so many fantastic musicians. I get opportunities to do, symphony pops concerts and all types of different things, Cole Porter theme shows and Gershwin theme shows and all different things, So, I get to do many things. I went to Russia last year. I'm going back. It's the people are wonderful. We went to Mexico. We played all over the place. Colombia. We go to Europe regularly. So it's all over the United States. So it's really great. So it's I'm very grateful.
Would you consider what you do work, or would you consider it, while it does constitute as a job. Would you consider it something other than work?
It's work. The work is the preparation.
Yeah.
The work, I must prepare. I must prepare my body with exercise. I have to prepare my voice. I have to keep researching material, and adding material, because I have deadlines, I have shows. So that part of it is definitely, it's work, but it's good work. So I don't know what else would give me this much, joy and fulfillment and, keep me in good health and things like that. Not sure.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, you never thought that you would be doing this full time.
That's correct. Never thought I would be.
So one final thought, and I know that you have a concert to get ready for here in Morristown. 2 words, but a very open-ended question, and you may answer it as you see fit. Why music?
Music is the unifier. It's the unifying force. So it doesn't matter where you come from, your beliefs, your political beliefs, your color, your race, age, doesn't matter. Brings the generations together, brings young people together. It's teamwork, it's discipline, it's focus, and it, for the artist, it is breathing. It is what keeps us connected to ourselves and to other people. That's what makes sense to us. So, so that's why it's like breath. It's like the breath of life. It's food. It's the spirit, working through you to honor the Creator, if you want to say that. That's how we, get the best out of ourselves.
Catherine Russell, our guest for In Studio from Simply Timeless, her new album, Alone Together. And I must say it's one that you should check out. And Catherine, just a pleasure to finally meet you. And thank you for what you do in helping to breathe life into this music once again.
Thank you very much.
And you can find more information about Catherine's release and tour schedule by visiting the website catherinerussell.net. Our thanks to Cydney Halpin and the New Jersey Jazz Society for helping host this special meeting. Until next time, I'm Jay Daniels. Thank you for joining us in studio.